Thank you. Appreciate you guys being here. Obviously, this is a really cool event. We've talked a lot about how important the Texas High School Coaches Association is, how important our relationship is with that group, but also how we are as servants to the high school coaches in this state and the role that we play in kind of helping young coaches develop and aspiring coaches get better. And so it's an awesome opportunity to come out here. It's one of the best conventions, if not the best convention in the country. And, it's just a great opportunity for our staff to get out here and mingle with other staffs of colleges in the state and also with all the high school guys. And so we're excited to be here. We're excited to do our part to kind of brand football in this state and continue the great reputation of football in the state of Texas. And so from there, I'll kind of open it up to questions.
Mike, Sam Kump, The Athletic. I know you've been here before as an assistant, but what is it like now walking the halls as the head coach at Texas A&M at this convention?
Yeah, I don't know that it feels a lot different being the head coach. I still want to be a guy who can be approachable. I still want to be a guy that can sit down and talk ball with high school coaches in this area. So from that perspective, I don't know that I've approached this thing much differently. Probably a few more people want to take pictures with me than they did the last time I was here, but I think that just comes with the job. But no, I just think, I got a chance to sit in some clinics yesterday and listen to coaches talk and to be able to talk in the hallway with high school coaches. I just think that's the reason why we got into this game back in the day was the pureness of coaching. And when you get into a convention setting like this, until I get in front of you guys and you ask me a million questions about all the things in college football, that's what this is about. It's just about coaching.
Coach Mike Roach, 24/7 Sports. Just generally, I know you can't discuss specific prospects, but generally recruiting, you guys are off to a good start in your first full cycle. How tough is that to come in and you're playing from behind right at the beginning? You got Texas coming off a playoff. You got all these teams recruiting the state. What's been, I guess, the key to your success early on, and just kind of what's the general recruiting philosophy?
Yeah, I think it's a big challenge when you take over. Obviously, that's you're 2 years behind the 2024 class when you get hired. You're a year behind the 2025 class when you get hired. And so, you're immediately trying to play catch up. And oh, by the way, when you take over, the portal window's open and all of that stuff is going on, and you're trying to make sure you could fill a competitive roster. And so I think it takes an unbelievable amount of work from an awful lot of people in our building. General Manager Derek Miller, all the way down through our assistant coaches, our off-the-field support staff, and you just got to go to work building relationships. And I think we're fortunate enough from a brand recognition standpoint that Texas A&M sells. And I was here for 4 years when we had a lot of success recruiting in this state, won a lot of big recruiting battles for the best players in this state, and obviously that's how you have success is you win the battles you need to win in this state. And so you jump in, you roll up your sleeves, and you sell the product you have. And obviously that's going to be critical to our success here at Texas A&M.
Mike, Carter Yates with Dave Campbell's Texas Football. The trend right now is of the top 100 recruits, 60% are going out of state. Why do you think it's so much harder to keep recruits in state? This is everywhere, not just Texas.
I think that's probably one of the biggest things that has consistently changed over the last 5 years. I think it started with social media and the ability to brand your program a lot easier 365 days a year. It used to be if you were a kid in a state, you couldn't see programs outside of your state. It was a lot harder. Now you just pick up your phone and you scroll through Instagram and you could see and have access and feel like you're part of a lot of programs regardless of where they are located in relation to you. Obviously, I think playing NIL has played a role in terms of helping families travel and some of those things. And so I think it's just kind of made it even worse. Obviously, we've got to figure out how to redirect that trend. We've got to get the best players in this state, staying in this state. And then I think, another part of it too is being true to our own metrics. I think one of the other things, and we've talked about this at length when I got hired, is if you look at it, every single year, the most amount of draft picks in the NFL draft are from the state of Texas. If you look at the colleges they represent, it doesn't mirror the premier brands always, right? And I think part of it is making sure that we trust our own evaluations, whereas these guys might think we're not getting the best ones in the state. Maybe internally we think we are.
Mike, I'm sorry. Mike, former Victoria Advocate. You brought Trooper Taylor with you from Duke. Can you speak a little bit about what he will bring to the program?
Yeah, so I knew of Trooper before I got hired of Duke. I didn't really know him personally very much. I sat down with him and we had a really long conversation when I got hired, and I was blown away kind of with how genuine he was and the kind of man he was. That spoke volumes, you know. And then as I started talking to a lot of our players at Duke, just the relationships he had, not only with them but with their families, and not just running backs or not just the kids he recruited, just across the board. He's a relationship person, and so that's kind of what made me retain him at Duke. And then, you know, spending 2 years with him, he's also a lights out running back coach and did a phenomenal job improving that room, the toughness, the ability for those guys to carry the ball, the ability for those guys in pass protection. And so it was kind of a no-brainer in terms of asking him to come. And then you add in the fact that he's from Cuero, and so he's a Texas kid and has always kind of wanted to get back to one of the big brands in this state. And so for him to kind of be back now at A&M, I think that's really important for us.
Greg Riddle, the Dallas Morning News. There's been some talk about possibly adding a summer signing date. Would you be in favor of that?
No, I'm 1,000% opposed to that. I think if you add a summer signing date, I think you run the risk of creating more kids wanting to reclassify and skip their senior year of high school. I think if you look at what happened when we moved the signing date to December, now 80% of the kids enroll in the spring. I think if you project that out and move the signing date to June, I think over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to start having 50, 60, 70% of the kids reclassifying. I don't think that's good for anyone. I don't think that's good for high school football. I don't think necessarily that's good for the kids to not finish their development of high school. And I don't know that it's great to put a high school senior on a college campus at that alarming rate.
Travis Brown with KBTX. I know there is some reports coming out about roster limit size. Is there a number that you've been hearing more, and has your thoughts changed, or what's your thoughts on what the roster limit size should be?
No, I haven't been hearing a number. I kind of leave that in the hands of the people that are going to make that decision. I certainly have spoken my piece about my opinions and my feelings on it. Trev and I have spoken about what I think that needs to look like, but at this point, that's kind of in the higher-ups' hands, and they'll kind of let me know where it lands, and we'll go from there.
Do you feel like the preservation of the walk-on is something that's still important in conversations you've had and that you're hearing around?
I've already addressed all of that, Travis, so we'll just let my previous statement stand.
Bryce Cherry, Waco Trib. Mike, you've probably been asked about Torrey New York a lot the last few weeks, but what were your first impressions of him when you got to College Station, and what does it say about him that as a true sophomore he's a team captain?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So obviously I knew of Torian when I was here as the defensive coordinator, because he was just starting to get on the scene. And then when I got to Duke, he was one of our priority recruits, not just as a linebacker, but as a kid in our program. And so we worked tirelessly to try to get him to Duke, and felt like we finally actually had to come close to doing that. And then from afar, because of all that, was able to, you kind of watch the success that he had last year, and part of you's happy for him, but part of you's disappointed he's not on your team. And then to come here, so when I got here, I knew a lot about him, his family, and everything. And Coach Trooper Taylor actually recruited him, and so to Duke. And so we had a lot of connections with them when we got here, and and then you start spending time with him, like in a college program, and where you're around him all the time. And I think his leadership qualities, what he stands for as a young man, how he represents himself, those things are really, really special. And so it's not a surprise that he has the respect of all of the players in the locker room. And I said this when it happened, but he got named captain because of a vote of his peers, not because Coach Elko thought we should have a sophomore captain. And when you counted the votes and you saw the amount of people that recognized him in that spot through different classes, through different positions, it just speaks to the leadership qualities that he has.
Hey, Coach, Vinny, CBS San Antonio. How do you think college football overall is doing and continues to do? And I know some things still need to play out, but in the NIL world, as we just evolve each and every day?
So I have a couple opinions on this. I think one is it's obviously there, right? And there are certain instances where NIL is at the forefront of every single thing that happens. But I think that those stories get magnified so much that it's become a very popular opinion that kids only do certain things because of NIL. And from the inside, I don't think that is nearly as accurate as people report it from the outside. I just think that's a very easy statement for people to make. It's there. I think we provide value for young men. I think that NIL money gets used in a lot of different ways. I don't think it's just automatically the kid running to the, I guess it's not the local shopping mall anymore, but whatever that equivalency would be, and spending it as quick as he can. I think I think a lot of it is used in a lot of different ways to help support families and support people. And so I don't think it's nearly this negative thing that a lot of people are trying to make it out to be. Now, there's still a need for a standard. There's still a need, we're still playing a sport where every school has different rules because of their state regulations and state legislation. And so when you're talking about competitive balance and, 49 states are operating under different rules, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And so I do think there's some legislative stuff that still needs to get regulated and ironed out.
No, I'm sorry, so you would be in favor of governance on some degree?
Of governance on it? I think everybody's in favor of governance on it. Yeah, I think trying to create just a standard, I'm not talking about a salary cap or capping earnings or affecting the kids. I'm talking about trying to make sure that across the board, everyone has the same playing field. It doesn't make a lot of sense that we have to compete with teams for national championships and every state has their own set of rules. There's not really a situation in anything that works like that.
Two more.
Mike, as spring official visits have happened, it seems like, at least anecdotally, the timelines on players making decisions and recruiting has kind of accelerated. I'm curious, with that, how much does a senior high school season still matter in evaluation from your perspective?
Yeah, I think it still matters. I think a long time ago, long before spring official visits, this thing started accelerating at a pace that was a lot different than what we were kind of accustomed to. And I think really the junior year now is really important. But, we still thoroughly evaluate senior film. We still evaluate our own commits. We evaluate other players. We evaluate kids committed elsewhere. I think trying to constantly make sure you're bringing in the right kids is critical. And some kids really develop between their junior year and senior year, and so you certainly don't want to miss out on the opportunity to find value when things like that happen.
Coach, I know you said at BD Days you didn't really want to talk about what's in the past, but it felt like in the last year or two, talking to people around the state, there were some strained relationships between the high school coaches and the school. How's that process been going, whether it be reaching out through the THSCA or just talking to high school coaches? How has that relationship process between you and your staff and them been going so far?
Yeah, I think it's gone really well in our 8 months. I think if you ask the high school coaches in and around this building, I think they feel the presence of Texas A&M the way they would want to. I think we have an inside-out recruiting philosophy, and I think that starts with making sure that we're being really thorough. We talked about how many NFL players are in this state and how many of them we've let get out to other schools, maybe not even necessarily recognizable brand schools, but just because they were maybe overlooked a little bit and had to go to other states or other opportunities and still wound up being NFL draft picks. And so I think that's our starting point now. We're competing to be the premier football program in the country, and so you have to expand out of there. But that's always where it starts. And I think regardless, and I've said this to a lot of the coaches, and I've said this at a lot of press conferences, to me, our relationship isn't about just taking kids or just recruiting. It's also about a service element in that there's a lot of high school coaches in this state that we have a lot of experience and a lot of resources to help grow, help talk football with, we can learn from them, they can learn from us. That relationship in and of itself, I think, when you're a school like Texas A&M in the state of Texas is really critical. And so we want to open up practice. We want people to be able to come out and watch. We want people to be around in the winter and the spring to talk football. Those things we take very seriously and are very important.
All right.
Good.
Thank Coach.
Thank you, guys.